Waxy Wednesdays with Wax Romantics.
Okay, but hey guys, welcome to Waxy Wednesdays with Wax Romantics. Very exciting episode today. We have our first guest ever. Before we introduce him though, I'd be remiss to not bring this up. You guys probably saw this. I just wanted to mention it real quickly. We don't have to talk about it. But do you guys see the thing where Bono was on that podcast?
Yes.
Yeah, and he said he's embarrassed by most U2 songs, only recently learned to sing, and also still doesn't like the name U2.
That's my boy right there.
Yeah, like I said, we don't need to talk about it. I just thought we could all shout out Bono and say, Bono, you've had an amazing, illustrious career. I'm so sorry you're feeling down, King, but you'll get over this, and you're way better than Trey from Fish.
Also, by the way, he just wears the sunglasses because he has glaucoma. So
yeah. So I didn't think about giving him shit for that. But no, to be real, we love you, Bono, and you're welcome on the podcast anytime, and we'll talk you up a little bit. But anyways, let's get to it. Like I said, very exciting episode today. We have our first guest ever, and it's Joe Nash, our cousin Joe. Joe, you want to say hello?
Hello. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, Joe. So where in the world are you right now?
So I'm in Syracuse, New York. It does not look like my background. There's a bunch of snow on the ground, but I'd like to think that I'm still out in the warm forest.
Right on.
Pretending as if I am.
And what are you doing in New York?
I'm finishing up grad school. So I'm studying forest ecology, forest management, and I'm finishing up my grad degree here.
That's awesome, man. So that's actually a good segue into something I wanted to talk about. Let me pull this up. You guys able to see my screen?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, Joe, as someone who spends a lot of time in the forest, you ever find yourself climbing trees or anything like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I was just wondering if anything like this has ever happened to you. Go ahead and play this quick clip.
Oh, no.
You ever experienced anything like that?
I've never experienced anything quite as tragic as that. I've certainly taken my fair share of tumbles, but not that dramatic.
So you do find yourself climbing trees sometimes, though?
Yeah. So when I'm out, like for a job and I'm getting paid, I don't climb trees because it's certainly frowned upon from a safety point of view, especially when I'm not by myself. But after the work day's done, I definitely find myself climbing and doing things that I wouldn't normally be doing.
Do you ever prepare to climb trees by doing any exercises like this? Let me pull this up again. So this is a young woman.
I already like where this is going.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Hell yeah.
Training in her backyard. I think it goes well for her. I don't remember this clip, but let's see it.
I'm doubting the stability of the chair.
You ever train like that?
So, no, her mistake was that she hadn't adequately prepared for what it's like to be upside down, which requires a lot more strength than being right side up.
Okay, that's good to know. We should try to reach out to that young lady.
They're like an overall like tree climbing strategy that you adhere to. Like, do you find trees that are good for climbing? And then
so
how do you go about climbing them? Because I always kind of sucked at climbing trees.
Well, it's important to have branches that are, strong enough to hold your weight. And so, number one important thing is to make sure that the branches that you're about to rely on can support you. But the difficulty, what I think that you're speaking to, is finding trees that have branches that give you easy access. And so the way around that is to learn how to climb up the trunk vertically, which is pretty difficult to do. Much easier with spikes.
Are you observing for beehives before you start climbing these trees?
Yeah, that's in the general realize where you're at, but make sure that the branches are safe.
Okay, we're good.
There's no drop bears. Yeah.
What do you think the highest you've climbed on a tree is? What's your max height reached?
Max tree height.
420.
Yeah, maybe 50 feet.
Damn.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's actually, so this next guy, he was probably up about that high.
Oh no.
And
Oh no.
yeah.
That could happen to
He just went limp.
See
So I feel bad for that young man. Did you see his shirt though? It said something about arse marks.
Arse marks?
Yeah,
That said arsenic.
I don't know. But in a way, he was maybe asking for that by wearing a Boulder t-shirt.
He didn't seem like he was ready to climb that tree, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some friends who climb trees professionally, and they're, they have all the correct gear and all of the training to get up there and stay up there safely. I just do it for fun occasionally. And so I can totally see something like that happening to people who are completely inexperienced and just think that it's easy.
Joe, what's the most dangerous animal you would say that is in the forests where you are?
Where I guess bears or black bears are really they're not, I don't really consider them dangerous, but I guess that's as dangerous as we have.
That's pretty.
Do you have emus?
A bull moose is what scares me.
Oh yeah, moose can be dangerous. Well,
yeah, we don't have grizzlies or anything, so it's nothing too scary.
Well, regardless, you could probably use somebody like this next guy out there to help you out with that.
This guy looks so prepared already.
Yeah. So for our audio listeners, it's a younger man. He's got some sort of rifle.
Yeah, okay.
He's wearing a green shirt.
Relaxed grip on the branch.
Very relaxed. One armed. One arm on the branch, one arm holding the gun. Anyways, let's see what this brave warrior has for us.
So ain't easy for an old guy like me. Sit up there.
Oh, he's down. Oh no!
See, this is what I was talking about. Look at that branch that he was on, and
Yeah.
there is no live foliage.
This kid's fucking crazy.
No,
We're not gonna
Yeah,
push
that,
him.
that was going somewhere great.
Yeah.
He falls through. Did the audio share okay in that last one? Could you guys hear the video okay? Okay, sweet. Just checking.
Yeah, you mean just a fat kid going, ow!
At one point, he also accidentally fires the. I think it's just an air rifle that he has. Anyways,
Yeah,
sorry.
you didn't have the safety on. Why do you start climbing a tree? You haven't put the safety on your gun. That's asking for getting shot.
Yeah, it could have turned out a lot worse for him. Anyways, sorry. That's the end of my video segment. Just thought I'd share some clips with you guys. For our audio listeners, I encourage you to watch this episode on YouTube, and you can see what we're looking at. But no, Joe, in all seriousness, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And we really appreciate your expertise in tree climbing there. And we'll probably have more forest questions for you here coming up. But with this being a music podcast, I wanted to shift to something a little more music related. So last week, guys, not that Joe was on the episode last week, but I mentioned that I was reading that Steely Dan book. And it just got me thinking a lot about American bands, particularly in the 70s, because obviously a lot of references are made to bands like Eagles and, just other big American bands during the time. And something I've discussed with people before that I always think is kind of a fun debate or discussion. And to preface this, I know I gave you guys no warning of this beforehand, but that was by design because I wanted your first takes on it. But I thought we could kind of have a little debate over who we think the greatest American band is. And I want to do this when Joe is here because, Joe, you're an American and you're also a classic rock guy. I'd describe you as a big classic rock guy. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Okay. So naturally, like a lot of the bands I have in contention here are from the classic rock era. But anyway, so I thought this out a little bit beforehand, and I have some simple criteria I thought we could use. And I want to know if you guys agree with this.
They had to have OD'd. No.
Okay, no, literally, I just wait a second. But good call, Keaton. Okay, so point number one, it has to be a band. No Bob Dylan, no Simon and Garfunkel, no Hall & Oates. Julian, you're on mute if you're trying to say something, brother.
Well, okay, so it can't even be like a Garfunkel and Oates type situation.
Yeah, I wanted to rule out duos for now. If you're like really riding hard for a duo or something like that, we could, obviously the rules aren't that strict if you want to throw someone in contention for that. But I thought just to kind of limit the playing field, we could keep duos out of this.
Green Day.
Okay. Okay. Green
Let's
Day.
fucking go.
Okay. Let me get through the rest of the criteria. Right.
Is Insane Clown Posse in the running?
Oh, that is actually a good call, Keaton. We could include that.
Are they a posse? Because are posses allowed?
I would say ICP is enough of a. We can say like bands or group. Because if you wanted to say Wu-Tang Clan or a different rap group, I think that we could include that in the band thing. But yeah, ICP is a potential one. So point number 2 of my criteria, popularity. So this either can be in terms of total records sold, like they're just, move a lot of units, a lot of people listen to their music, or it could be popularity in the sense that they just have a lot of relevance in American culture. So like for Keaton's example of ICP, I would say they're not popular in the sense that they've like had gold albums or anything, but like they're very much in the zeitgeist of America.
Okay, but they're also a duo, so
is ICP technically a duo?
You could say all that same shit about Simon and fucking Garfunkel.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Keaton. ICP is out. I didn't know they were technically a duo.
That's the best background.
That's awesome. For audio listeners, Keaton's changed his Zoom background to a picture of ICP. Okay. Point number 3, and this is where Keaton's first comment comes into play. So I said, for them to be considered as the greatest American band of all time, they have to have either A, longevity, they've had to have been around for a long time, or B, break up because of a tragic death.
Ooh.
So, Keaton, that your overdose comment could definitely come into play there.
Woo.
And okay, 4, you guys can let me know if you agree or disagree with this criteria, but I thought, it being a band, it's important to have kind of discernible band members and an iconic frontman. So like the individual band members kind of have to have their own personality and like be identifiable within, the American perception of the band and stuff. So we can, argue that later if you guys don't like it. And then my final criteria is they have to have a distinctly American ethos. So that could mean anything like how Leonard Skinner is like distinctly American, but I'd also make like a case for grunge being distinctly American in its own way. Or like a lot of the like California bands of like the 60s being distinctly American. So that can be however you kind of think about American, but I was thinking, there's obviously like a lot of bands from America that could really be from anywhere, or that are even like purposefully trying to like emulate UK bands or something like that. So
question. So, and then you're including like hip hop in that whole realm as well then, right?
Yeah, we can definitely. Yeah. My first pass at this, I did have Wu-Tang Clan as an honorable mention, but they weren't in my top group of contenders. But yeah, genre agnostic here. Obviously with rock and roll being around for the longest, like it was easier. And since like, we think of bands most times as being like rock and roll bands, but you can make a case for anyone you want. So I did a first pass at my, I put it into two pools. One is like the main contenders and one is honorable mentions. So let me read who I have in no particular order. And then you guys can add whoever you want, and then we can have a discussion around it. Okay, so my contenders, again, in no particular order: Grateful Dead, Fleetwood Mac, The Eagles, The Doors, Metallica, Nirvana, Pearl Jam.
I was thinking Fleetwood Mac was definitely going to be in my...
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought of Nirvana.
Okay, and let me read my honorable mentions real quick. Okay, so Wu-Tang Clan, like I mentioned. Creedence Clearwater Revival. I don't know how I feel about that one, but they came up. The Band. This one was also a little weird because it's led by a solo artist, but there's a band behind him. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, the Beach Boys, and the Strokes. I put in here. I don't know how I feel about the Strokes, though, to be honest. So, are we ruling ICP out now because we realized they're a duo, or I've realized they're a duo? I don't know.
It's okay.
If you want to argue for it, I do. I would love if this came to the conclusion that Insane Clown Posse is the greatest American band of all time. That'd really be the ideal outcome.
There's a lot of solid American duos that I feel still portray like that that an enigmatic frontman feel with, like, I don't know, just like that overall American-ness. Like, for instance, the White Stripes, I feel like.
Yeah, that I did actually think of the White Stripes, but I ruled the White Stripes out because of the longevity thing. And it's not like they did have kind of a dramatic breakup, but I didn't think it was dramatic enough.
It wasn't like tragic by any means.
Yeah.
But they did put out a lot of records too.
They did.
And like Bruce Springsteen, since you mentioned like a front man with a backing band, he's definitely
Bruce
like,
Springsteen, the issue band. I know that's just maybe we should take Tom Petty out. We should,
because they're ultimately just like songwriters, not bands. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Let's cross Tom Petty off the list then.
And if we're gonna mention Nirvana, I think Foo Fighters should be an honorable mention.
Oh, I did. That's fine. I meant to add Foo Fighters to my honorable mentions list.
They definitely have longevity, and I mean, just the fact that Dave Grohl is literally in like two iconic American bands is pretty fucking crazy in itself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they have a special place in American music for sure. sorry, I'm gonna go back to ICP real quick because Joe, you're from Michigan originally, the home state of the Insane Clown Posse. What's your relationship? What's your relationship like with ICP?
So a very good friend of mine actually was filming videos for ICP, and so he was working directly with both of them.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what my relationship really is with ICP. They followed me throughout my whole life. I used to work with a guy with a Fago neck tattoo. They have like such an intense following, and I think that that's super fascinating. And they are really funny individuals, but I can't say that I would like ever turn on their music and just like kick back.
Yeah.
Not my thing, but I'm fascinated with their reach.
Yeah, well said. Are you like, I'm just curious, could you name like a little bit of their discography? Like, could you like right off the top of your head name like individual ICP songs? And do you even have like one that you'd call a favorite? No, I couldn't do that.
That's for the best.
Yeah, but Keaton did make, and Joe, this came out on first episode, which you said you listened to. I don't know if you remember this, but he coincidentally talked about ICP in that show. So maybe ICP would become a motif of the podcast. I would really like that, along with
maybe we can get him on.
Fish.
Maybe.
Yeah, that'd be incredible. But we were talking about Fish and just like the culture around them, and Keaton said it like in modern times, it's probably like the following of Fish is only contended probably by ICP and like maybe surpassed by ICP. So
yeah, the FBI was. Did you hear about that whole uproaring when the FBI labeled them as a gang?
Yes,
fan base as a gang.
Yeah, yeah.
And that made it extremely difficult to ensure the gathering of the Juggalos because that's now a gathering of a gang. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I hate to see just kind of disenfranchised youth unfairly victimized like that by the American government. Such an evil
it's kind of funny
as the American. It is funny. Okay. Anyways, so sorry. We'll hop off the ICP train. Joe, I just wanted to get your opinion on it. Okay. So again, contenders: Grateful Dead, Fleetwood Mac, Eagles, Doors, Metallica, Nirvana, Pearl Jam. Any groups you guys want to move over into that main list or want to move over to honorable mentions?
I'd like to
Red
clarify.
Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah, Red Hot Chili for sure.
To the contenders list, that's a good call.
So we're not doing single, like
no solo artists, no duos. Yeah.
Okay. So I was gonna say if we're doing that,
because it'd be Bob Dylan
or
probably,
Michael Jackson, but Jackson 5 potentially.
Yeah. Free Nationals. They're tight.
That's a good, yeah. Okay.
I'd say Blue Jean Committee.
Have you guys seen that show, the documentary now? Joe, Julian, Cam?
I've seen some of it.
So. Good call, Keith. Blue Jean Committee is the perfect conglomeration of all the great attributes of many 70s American rock bands that we adore. So I'm gonna put BJC on the honorable mentions list.
Fuck yeah.
What about Soundgarden?
I thought about Soundgarden, and yeah, we have two other of the big Seattle 4 grunge bands on here.
They should definitely be an honorable mention.
Okay, I just didn't. They broke up relatively early.
Yeah, you're right.
And definitely were popular when grunge was popular, but Pearl Jam has the longevity and such a place in American culture now. And Nirvana had obviously one of the most famous deaths of all time. So yeah, we'll put Soundgarden on the honorable mentions list.
So what about the Allman Brothers band? I don't remember Allman Brothers band, rather. I don't remember all of your qualifications. So they may miss one.
I thought about Allman Brothers and I thought about Doobie Brothers. And I kind of like in my head we're grouping them together with CCR and the bands, maybe unfairly, but I, whatever reason, associate all those groups together. And I may be incorrect about this, but I just feel like the bands and CCR had a little more popularity and maybe like a little bit more of a place in like American musical culture. But I think if you want to make a case for the Allman Brothers, we can totally put them on.
I would make a relatively serious case for actually putting Green Day on the honorable.
Yeah.
Because
I did think about putting Green Day on.
They've been a band since the 80s, and even though they're like not still the best band, they had a long period of time where like, I mean, everyone knew Green Day, and they were also just funny enough on my honorable mentions list for like our like album review thing that we're gonna do later.
Dude, that's hilarious. I had Green Day on there too.
Yeah, I'm sure we all listened to Green Day when we were growing up, like to a certain extent. So they formed a generation, maybe not like generations before or after them as much, but I think it would be
dissing Green Day to not put them on here.
I'm drawing a blank. Sorry, Joe. Is Aerosmith an American band?
Oh, Cam, good call. Aerosmith is from
I put Aerosmith in the contenders list for sure. Aerosmith is up there.
And like AC/DC, even though they do kind of suck.
AC/DC is Australian.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Well, Brian Johnson is. Are they all Australian?
Yeah, Angus.
I thought they were American band. I thought of them. I was like, no, nice. Yeah.
What about the Temptations?
Yeah, that's a good call. I did feel like I was doing a disservice to a lot of the like Motown groups, Joe. So yeah, we can do Temptations. For me, a lot of them didn't have the longevity thing.
Yeah.
What about Michael Jackson? He had like semi-longevity.
Yeah, but he's a solo artist, bro. Solo artist. This is the greatest American band, bro.
Yeah, I mentioned the MJ5 too. The five.
He took form. He took multiple forms. It's not just one person.
That's true. Yeah, there have been different versions of MJ, but then we could I feel like then we'd have to introduce Bob Dylan in it too, because Bob Dylan has had different periods and stuff, and
like Prince.
Yeah.
If we're bringing in solo artists, then like Biggie, Pac, I'd even put like Mike Miller in those kinds of lists too.
Kendrick has to be on.
Kendrick, obviously, Eminem.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to feel like a rap god.
Okay. Well, so we've got to reach an outcome, guys. We can't leave this episode not having named the greatest American band of all time. So let's go over our contenders one more time. So we now have Aerosmith and Red Hot Chili Peppers in the mix, the Grateful Dead, Metallica, Fleetwood Mac, The Doors, Eagles, Nirvana, or Pearl Jam.
Is it time to start throwing stuff out the window?
Well, maybe easier than that.
I'm ready to debate.
Yeah, maybe we go around. I'll start because I have kind of a list, and of those contenders, you guys name your top 3 or 4, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So I'm sorry to say this, not really. I think this is fair. I might put the Grateful Dead as my number 1 right now. 2, and I'm sorry to say this because I fucking hate the Eagles, but I think the Eagles would have to be in my top 3. And I think Metallica might have to be too. So it's like the most atrocious list, honestly, the Grateful Dead, the Eagles, and Metallica. But I might say those would be in my top 3 for greatest American bands of all time. So I'll start there. Who wants to go next?
Can I ask you, I have a question real quick. Is this specific to like the rock genre? Like that kind of classic rock genre?
Oh, God damn it, Cam. No, we've covered this.
We're listening to the fucking rules.
What okay, because we haven't like acknowledged any like hip hop groups or indies.
Yeah, we did. I
I
said Wu-Tang fan. We've had an extended discussion about
okay.
ICP, in case you don't remember.
God damn it! All right, forget I said.
Wait, what about
forget I
King
said
Crimson?
Yeah. No.
What about Avenged Sevenfold?
Yeah, King Benjamin.
No. We got to stick to our contenders list now.
Wait, can I get that full list one more time?
Yeah. Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Eagles, Doors, Fleetwood Mac, Metallica, Dead, RHCP, Aerosmith.
Okay.
Avenged Sevenfold.
Yeah. Avenged Sevenfold.
They're so influential, man.
Yeah.
And you
And
said
Blink 182.
you said Grateful Dead, Eagles, and Metallica.
I'm regretting how this list
I
looks
think-
on paper
Wait.
now.
I'm pretty sure it was Metallica, Limp Bizkit. That was it.
Honestly, I think you're
let me say
pretty
this
much
list
right.
is genre agnostic, except for not allowing new metal bands. No Biscuit and no Avenged Sevenfold.
What about Deftones?
No.
Wait, Julian, did you say my list is right though?
It's close, honestly. I
Okay,
think,
what's yours?
I would probably say, unfortunately, the Eagles would probably be at the top.
Uh-huh.
I also hate the Eagles, so it brings me great pain to say that.
Yeah.
And then I would probably honestly say it's really hard for me to decide between Nirvana and Red Hot Chili Peppers, but I would say Nirvana would be second for me
Okay.
because they just, I mean, they're still so relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I was just sorry, I'm gonna interrupt real quick. I just heard a music journalist say that we're still in like Nirvana fallout, that like we're still suffering the effects of like everything post Nirvana has been identified as Nirvana fallout.
And so many people are still trying to emulate that.
Yeah.
And
Okay, but sorry, who was your third?
I don't know, like as much as I would like to make Metallica my third, I would say Grateful Dead's probably overall been more culturally relevant. But I think Metallica should be at the top of like the honorable mentions list for sure, because there's so many different genres and subgenres of music that would not exist if Metallica never like pursued what they did.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else have their list assembled?
I don't know. I'm still like going between. I don't know. I like the contenders list, but I'm still like thinking there's a lot we could be missing out on. Like Daft Punk, for example. Like, they're just out
No,
there.
and they're not American.
Honorable mention. Are they really not? What are they?
They're European.
Oh,
I think they're
idea.
French.
Okay. But as far as the contenders list goes, I disagree with the Eagles thing. I don't think they're going to be my top three. I guess
Just ask any old person, like any person over the age of 40, to sing you an Eagles song, and they'll have one that they know front to back.
Yeah, and at one point, the Eagles were the highest selling artist on the planet, past Elvis, past the Beatles, past Elton John. At one moment, and I think it's still maybe the case that the Eagles' greatest hits album was sold the most like physical units of any record ever. So it's hard to beat the Eagles in popularity. Anyways, okay. That's not to say you have to include the Eagles. I was just making a case.
Well, now that I know all that, fuck me. The Eagles would probably go in the top three. But I would probably it's tough. I don't know. I feel like Fleetwood Mac has always been very relevant. And they had that. Do you guys remember that video that came out? I'm going to find it really quick. I'm going to screen share. It was that video of that guy.
Yeah, we know the video.
Yeah. Okay, I have no bother even playing it. He's listening to what song was it? Dreams, yeah. And that one, and then it caused this like huge Fleetwood Mac resurgence, and like everyone I know and their mother was back on Fleetwood Mac, and they got like another 1 billion streams in like a month.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because I think Fleetwood Mac that would be my fourth. Would be Fleetwood Mac. But anyways, okay, Cam, who's your second?
Probably Metallica.
Okay. And who's your third?
The Eagles.
Eagles. Oh no, the Eagles
Now that
are
I'm more
this
educated.
guys.
I know.
All right, Joe or Keaton? Who wants to go next?
Screet. I'll go because mine are pretty fucking awesome. But
Okay, so
I'm gonna start. I guess I agree with the Beach Boys, and that's like my number one.
okay,
Just
fuck
because
yeah,
I've been
I
thinking
like
about
that.
them a bunch. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I think
okay.
the
So
Beach
what
Boys
was?
are the best.
Yeah, I mean they're cool, and especially they're like the American Beatles.
yeah, I was
and
gonna.
also,
Yeah, they were our answer to the Beatles, and if the Beatles are like unanimously agreed as the greatest rock band of all time, then yeah, I think the Beach Boys is a good pick.
Yeah, and side note, who was that cult leader guy? Marilyn Manson.
Oh, Charles Manson.
Manson.
Yeah, him and
different.
Dennis
Marilyn
Wilson.
Manson.
Marilyn Manson has done some
So
fucked
close.
up shit too.
It's true.
Yeah, but supposedly he was a songwriter on a couple B-side of Beach Boys songs.
Yeah, he had a song called so Charlie, I only know so much about this because I just read a book about Charles Manson. It's called Chaos, and it talks about him and Dennis Wilson. Charles Manson really wanted to be like a rock star, and he found Dennis Wilson, and Dennis Wilson was like riding for him, mostly because Dennis Wilson found it advantageous to be around Charlie because he had all the girls he could sleep with. It's really fucked up. But yeah, so Dennis Wilson tried to help him get his music career off the ground, and they did at one point. Yeah,
like a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, record a Charles Manson song and released it as I forget what the Beach Boys, they changed the title, but the Charles Manson song was called like Cease Existing or Stop Existing or something like that. Anyways.
Yeah, but he got super pissed off because the Beach Boys changed the name and the lyrics. And so Charles Manson was like pissed. And then, and then somehow that ties in with the Sharon Tate.
Because Sharon Tate lived at the house that Terry Melcher used to live at, and Terry Melcher was the record producer who worked with the Beach Boys, and so he went there originally because he wanted to kill the Terry Melcher, Sharon Tate and stuff. Yeah. Anyways,
but so they're just innocent
crazy.
bystanders. They're just totally innocent.
Yeah.
But that's
the
a
guy
good point.
moved.
Yeah, because and that does like ingrain the Beach Boys even more in like the American legends that they're like so closely tied to one of the most infamous American events of all time. Anyways, who's your second, Keats?
Second, I was thinking because we haven't. Did anybody say Soundgarden yet?
We talked about
Julian.
Soundgarden. I just said
enough.
No, I didn't say they're not good enough. I just said I didn't include them on the list because I put Nirvana and Pearl Jam over them, just because Pearl Jam has more longevity, and Nirvana had a more infamous story.
The only argument I'll make for Soundgarden is I think that now they're having like a resurgence.
Yeah, with Chris Cornell's death. I just didn't like that they had it, if we're looking at their whole career, a big, like close to 20-year gap. Because they broke up in like 98 or something and then didn't get back together until like 2015, I think, maybe earlier. But so yeah, they have a pretty long gap in their career. So I thought that kind of like, but Key, if you want to say Soundgarden, nothing.
Yeah, I was just gonna no, you can maybe add it to an honorable mentions.
Okay.
For sure, Slipknot. For sure, Korn. System of a Down.
I do love System of a Down, but they are Armenian technically.
Oh, really? But they got. I mean, yeah, probably they're Armenian.
I mean, yeah, I think like 2 of them are American and 2 of them are Armenian.
Yeah, sorry for throwing out all the new metal. I'm trying to think of really good. I'd say, and they don't count because they're German and also so I can't say that shit. Trying to think of bands.
I was just thinking this journey.
Do you want me to read the contenders list again?
No. I'm just I am happy to. I agree with everything you guys are saying though. So I'm happy to pass the mic off to Joe.
No, you gotta name your 3, dude. You got it.
I at least named Blue. Okay, so Beach Boys, Soundgarden, Blue Jean Committee. There you fucking go.
Okay, cool. All right.
Perfect.
All right. Very contrarian answer, but I dig it.
And then Slipknot for sure.
I'm gonna include one like weird kind of new metal, or I don't think new. I'm gonna include one weird metal band just to get that over with. Okay, we'll say
Good.
Slipknot.
System of a Down has to be in the honorable mentions because they're half American.
I don't know.
They're
I
fully
don't
American,
know.
but half Armenian as well.
You think System of a Down is one of the greatest American bands of all time?
I do.
God.
I would put them if we were doing like personal favorite bands, they would be on my list for sure.
Yeah, but that's the challenge of this.
I know,
and why I
but-
created the criteria, so we couldn't just name our personal favorites.
I think it's kind of the same thing though, where we were talking about people of generations before us, like knowing bands' catalogs, like knowingly or not. I feel like System is kind of in that vein for people our age because like everybody knows them, or like
Absolutely.
a fuckload of people do for at least one song. Which isn't to say they're good, but to me, that makes them at least relevant.
Okay.
I think-
I included my honorable mentions.
I mentioned it a second ago, but for another throw in the honorable mentions, Journey. I just had Journey. Should definitely
Yeah,
get a
that's
spot.
that's a good call, Cam. Okay, Journey. All right,
I
Joe.
was gonna say Motley Crue. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I feel like I also neglected some
I'm
like
sorry, Joe.
good like
I didn't mean to-
'80s glam
No,
bands.
yeah, like
I think Motley Crue is a
Ramones.
good call, Keaton.
Devo.
And like Motley Crue, especially for the personalities, because like
Yeah.
that's maybe the biggest part of like what makes a great band is like Motley Crue. It's four dudes who like everybody knows the individual dudes, and they all have their own crazy stories. And
Did you guys watch The Dirt? Motley Crue's
yeah,
god awful.
I read the
fucking-
book too.
Yeah.
The I didn't like the movie, but the book was really good.
The movie was a trope. It literally starts. Never mind. I'm not
Well,
even
I
gonna
don't know why
say
they
how it
casted
starts.
Michigan Gun Kelly as Tommy Lee. But
Yeah,
anyways,
that was horrible.
Joe, what's your list?
So I think I'm going to agree with Keaton about the Beach Boys.
Okay.
Slap them up on that. Yeah, maybe number one. I put the Grateful Dead on there.
Okay.
And then number three would be... can you read me the contenders list again?
Yeah. Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Eagles, Doors, Fleetwood Mac, Metallica, Dead, RHCP, Aerosmith.
I might have to agree with you guys with the Eagles, but I'd like to put, I don't think we talked about Tribe Called Quest. should at
Oh,
least
yeah.
be an honorable
Oh,
mention.
Mention. You're right.
Mm.
Good call.
Remember Quest Triber, Joe and/or Collin?
Yeah, that was my Xbox handle for a little bit because I was really into Tribe Called Quest. Okay.
Triber's a great one.
So I'll crunch the numbers later. I'm gonna do live on air. I'll put this out on our website or something in case anybody ever wants to fucking look at this. But I think from this we can narrow it down and say that in the top 4 spots for the best American band of all time, we have the Eagles, the Grateful Dead, Beach Boys, and who else did we all name?
I think Nirvana,
I guess
maybe?
Metallica. Metallica made it on two of people's lists. So yeah, Beach Boys made it on 2 lists. Eagles made it on 4 lists. Dead made it on 3 lists. So I guess right now it's a toss-up between the Eagles.
And Slipknot.
Oh no, coming in from oh my god, surprise bro. Blue Jean Committee is the best American band of all time.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, but no guys, great segment. Congratulations to the Eagles. I think you're the greatest American band of all time. Followed closely by the Grateful Dead, maybe. Okay. I think that's a that did expect the Eagles to be high up in there. So I think we did a good job. We didn't really talk about this, and I was wondering when I put this on the contenders list if anybody would object to it, but I had the Doors on here. How do you guys feel about the Doors being
I hate the Doors.
More of an honorable mention, I think.
Strongly.
Okay. Honorable. Julian, you hate the Doors? You straight up hate them?
It's an honorable mention, but I do straight up hate the Doors. I just can't.
Why do you hate the Doors? It kind of surprises me, honestly. I didn't expect you to be like the biggest Doors fan ever, but
they're annoying.
Is Jim Morrison annoying?
Jim Morrison's annoying. He's whiny. All their songs sound the same. I don't care who I'm
pissing. Because of the peyote.
I do. Yeah. I don't want to make anybody mad. My opinion shouldn't mean that much to anybody, but yeah, I don't know. They're boring to me. And I do see the argument. Like, they definitely were like very relevant to their time, and they definitely cling on to relevance even like now.
And part of the reason I thought they were strong contender is Jim Morrison's death was relatively early, it's 27 Club, and like a now like pretty infamous death, in terms of rock star deaths.
And they had pretty good unit sales too. Like
definitely. Yeah, very popular. And I feel like, again, like an identifiable band's like a very unique place. And like Jim Morrison, since this is American bands, Jim Morrison is thanks, Keaton. Oh, this is sweet. Sorry guys, there's this sweet chat going on here. But sorry, I lost my train of thought. Anyways, I thought the Doors fit in there. So anyways, anything else to add to the argument, guys, before we wrap this up and move to album reviews?
I thought that was a great segment, Collin, but I do think we were neglecting like the more hip hop genre. Like when Joe said "A Tribe Called Quest," I would just open like a door for like so many.
Yeah, maybe we should do another one of this and decide.
A lot of my favorite hip hop artists are like solo artists.
What is happening in this chat?
I feel you on the solo artist thing though, yeah.
Like Tribe is awesome and definitely fits in like the group category well, but not a whole lot of other hip hop artists really brand themselves as groups. Like Wu-Tang is also a great honorable mention.
Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe we should have kept this to like traditional bands. And maybe we should have a separate discussion sometime where we argue like best hip hop groups or hip hop artists.
Yeah, awesome segment, Collin.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for participating. That was fun. Okay, we'll move on to the album reviews segment. Last week, so we're gonna switch to a thing where the person who hosts each episode will name like a theme for the album reviews next week. So Julian hosted last week's episode, and he picked the theme of albums released between 2000 and 2010 that had like a significance to our childhood and our upbringing. Because all of us were born in the mid late 90s, with the exception of Cam, who was born in 2001. But anyways, so 2010 is obviously like a very crucial time for our upbringing, our just like pop culture then is kind of different than it will ever be again. But anyways, so Joe, with you being our guest, I thought I'd let you go first. I did, when I was texting about this episode, I said if you wanted to participate in the review, you're more than welcome, and I gave you the theme. Something I didn't tell you since then, Julian did say after that, like, since this was hard to pick just one, you can name, again, like your honorable mentions like we did for the last segment. So if you have honorable mentions that you want to name, feel free to. But if you want to just go straight to the review, that is fine as well.
Right on. Yeah, so I bounced around a little bit with what album I was going to do for this, but I ultimately landed on one that has stuck through the years. And I still listen to it all the time, especially when I'm doing field work, just because it's a bop. So this album is On the Sun by the Black Seeds. You'll throw up a graphic of it in post. Boom, it's right here. And so the Black Seeds, New Zealand reggae band, and this album is, how do I explain it? It's super funky. And so I'm into it for that reason. Obviously the funk reggae situation is super agreeable to me. But there are a few things on it that, I don't think it's perfect, and maybe it's impossible to make a perfect record, and so I shouldn't be looking for that, and I'm not. But there's in the production of this album in particular, the drums are kind of, they leave something to be. They leave something out. They're not as full, because I've heard the live shows that the Black Seeds play, and the drums are very full and sound like you hear them from the inside out, inside of your body before the outside of your body, and you kind of miss that on the recorded albums, which is a bummer. But that's not to say it's not worth a listen. And what I really like about it is that from start to finish, it's like a journey going through. And I really dig that about albums, rather than just one theme throughout the whole thing. Kind of I like going on a journey throughout the album. So I really dig that about this.
What did you, sorry if I missed it, did you say what year it came out in?
2004.
Okay, 04.
Yeah, this was an 04 album.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm vaguely familiar, but I'll definitely have to give that album a listen through, because I have never done that.
Yeah, these podcasts are fun for that reason. I get lots of new music to listen to from you guys.
Yeah, but super rad choice, Joe. I feel like my answer will probably be predictable, but I didn't see a New Zealand reggae band coming up in this list at all. So that's dope. Thanks for bringing that. We do the Waxy's rating.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if you want to rate it out of 10, you can. If you don't want to, you obviously rating music.
Yeah, I'd hit it with an 8 Waxys out of 10 Waxys.
Ooh.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right on. All right. Well, everyone listen to the Black Seas. Thanks, Joe. Anyone else want to go next? Anyone volunteer? Or Joe, you can popcorn it. Someone if you want.
Hit him with it, Cam.
Oh, I don't know why I had a feeling you were gonna take me. But okay, so
target.
Yeah, the only one. If you guys like my background filter, but I was pretty relieved when Julian had sent that text in the chat saying to do an honorable mentions, because I was struggling a lot and I was gonna come on here and fall apart. So it's kind of fun compiling a list, honestly, because it made me add a bunch of songs I forgot about back to my main playlist. But for mine, and I'm eager to see how mine will compare, because obviously I'm only 4 to 5 years younger than you guys, but I feel like that is a well enough gap where there could be a pretty good range of music that is different from what you guys might say. So in no particular order, this is my honorable mentions. First, Kid Cudi, Man on the Moon, 2009 album, Pursuit of Happiness comes out. There's some awesome guitar riffs on there. Really, really great album. It's kind of like a party anthem for people my age. This is more of a personal choice. They're very low key. The band Yacht. See Mystery Lights is a 2010 album that I fell in love with when I first heard the song Psychic City. And the whole album was great. It was almost going to be my review album, but I moved it to honorable mentions. And then talking about the Strokes, Is This It? Collin showed me this album, Is This It? 2001. I think that album goes down just nationally, internationally, as one of the best albums of all time, regardless of this 2010 thing. And then my next honorable mention is more of It's an album I love, and an album that has helped me like definitely like coming of age, kind of continues with that coming of age theme. But I also wanted to highlight the movie aspect. My next album is the Lord of the Rings Return of the King soundtrack, actually, because I feel like that's neglected a lot, is how much the soundtrack of a movie can change both the definition of the movie and just how much it can touch you and change a scene. I feel like that's like overlooked a lot for great songs just because they're in a movie. But this soundtrack won an Oscar. The movie actually swept the Oscars, won in all 11 categories, but this soundtrack won an Oscar, and it still pulls millions of streams. And the cast actually created it, like Don Monahan, Billy Boyd. They actually created many of the songs. So awesome soundtrack, even more revolutionary for the movie field. But the album I wanted to review was Oracular Spectacular by MGMT, 2007. Probably maybe my favorite album of all time. But it definitely, when I was like a kid, I have really fond memories of like watching the music video to Time to Pretend and Electric Feel. I don't know. It's like the theme of the album is very much like that in the name of Oracular Spectacular, but like that kind of imagination and like that trust in youth kind of thing where it's like very imaginative, and it's very much like a touch on the creative side of what your brain can kind of conjure musically. So I was gonna list MGMT earlier in our little list. We were talking about bands because it is a duo band though, so I guess it would have been vetoed. But MGMT formed in 2002 and made Oracular Spectacular in 2007, and that's when they took off. Originally, actually, I just read a fact about this the other day. MGMT was originally called Management, but they were just using MGMT to sign off on things as an abbreviation, and it just stuck eventually, and everyone just started calling them MGMT. They were no longer Management, so that was pretty cool.
I thought they were called Mgmt.
Mgmt, yeah, that's often... I did that too. That's probably where the confusion came from, because I'm sure you told that to me. But it's like, as I said, it's a very like appropriate for the youth, and definitely like kids love this because it's just like a very like fun, imaginative thing. But it also has like a psychedelic noise, and it is a very nostalgic album. It reminds me of like when I was a kid, and like listening to the music videos. It definitely takes me back to like an easier time, I'd say. But the first song, Time to Pretend, is definitely like that. I don't know, I guess I call it like a mission statement for the whole album, because it opens up and it's like time to pretend, like time to imagine, and time to be like creative, and time to be yourself, and just kind of get lost in this album. So I love that fact about it, that from the first song to the last, this theme of pretending is developed. It was nominated for a couple of international awards. I think the one I'm thinking of was the Brit Award in 2009. I don't think it won, but it was nominated, which was pretty awesome. And then I fell back in love with MGMT. I'm like kind of into like, not like very into, but like I like watching the Marvel movies. And I remember like the Spider-Man trailer came out and they used Time to Pretend. And there's this another resurgence with MGMT. People were like, oh my God, what a fucking great band. And like it came back into the mainstream. That was pretty awesome. But they're still making stuff. I think their last album was 2018. I forget the name. But amazing band and album. And if you guys haven't, go watch some of the old music videos. They're fucking hilarious. They're
Little
so
Dark
funny.
Age, Cam, is their last. I love Little
Is
Dark
it?
Age. That was the
Awesome. Thanks, Colin. Yeah, Little Dark Age is good. But yeah, definitely if you have some time, maybe if you have time at the end, I'll just screen share their Time to Pretend music video. They're so fucking funny. They're awesome. It's like horrible editing. You can tell it's like a $30 budget, probably. But yeah, Oracular Spectacular, MGMT takes this week's. And I'd give it, if I for like subjectively personal reasons, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. But obviously you can't. I think no album deserves a 10 out of 10. So objectively, it's more of like honestly like a 7.5, 8 out of 10. But to me, it's one of my favorite albums of all time, without a doubt.
Yeah, dude. Good review.
Thanks.
I did have that album came up to me as a potential honorable mention, but I kept it off because I wasn't familiar with the whole album until like much later. I just knew the singles really well.
That's a great album.
But yeah, it's a great album, Jim. And yeah, the music video for Time to Pretend is ingrained in my memory from the MTV days.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so funny.
All right, who do you want popcorn it to? Or you, if someone wants to volunteer, obviously.
Popcorn, Julian.
Dang, I kind of knew you were going to do that for some reason too.
Julian.
All right. Well, I sent that text because I was like honestly really struggling with just picking one album. I felt like it was really hard for me to like get into a mindset where I was just thinking of one album, because when I was listening to this music, I wasn't really listening to it one album at a time. I was listening to like all of it at once. And so it was all like put into one lump in my brain where it like all was the same kind of era and just, yeah, like nostalgic feeling rather than like individual bands and artists or whatever. But anyway, I wound up writing reviews or like notes for all these albums to help me narrow down which one I felt like still was like the most important to me at this time. So honorable mentions from the bottom up. System of a Down, baby. We already talked about them. I did their album Steal This Album, which came out November 26th of 2002. Also on the list is Thrice, again, because I'm a huge Thrice guy, but couldn't do 2 Thrice albums on the same podcast. That'd be awful. But I wanted to mention their album Visu, January 1 of 2005. And then also Franz Ferdinand, really, for some reason, formative band to me coming up.
Yeah.
I went with their album You Could Have It So Much Better, which came out in October of 2005. And then another band called Editors, which was like a really big band when I was really young. I remember listening to them in like 3rd grade and just having my mind blown. Their debut album Backroom, which also came out January 1st of 2005. And then last but not least, on the honorable mentions, Radiohead's Amnesiac, which came out in March of 2001. I'm a really huge Radiohead fan, and that album, I mean, a lot of people hate it, a lot of people love it. It's very polarizing, but Amnesiac is my personal favorite Radiohead album, so I'll just say that and move on. My review, I wound up going with a Coldplay album, because Coldplay, honestly, I would say
this is awesome.
You can hate all you want for this, everyone that's listening, but I would say Coldplay was probably my most consistently like favorite band when I was growing up, because they had a consistently good discography and they made progression on each album. So the album I picked, I also have a copy of it here, is X and Y. Oh, it's not really going to show up. I don't know why I keep trying that, but
I'll put it in post.
Yeah, edit that in. Thank you. Mm-hmm. It came out June 6th of 2005. It's their 3rd album, and it was produced by Coldplay as well as this guy named Danton Supple, which just take a second to appreciate that name. That dude also produced their 2nd album with them a little bit, but it was also largely produced by this other dude named Ken Nelson. But on album 3, Coldplay and Ken Nelson apparently had like a little bit of a beef, just like artistically, where Ken Nelson was kind of moving in directions that Coldplay didn't really want to for this album. So throughout the whole process of like producing and like engineering this album, they wound up recording and re-recording stuff like a bunch of fucking times. And they wound up, it's kind of crazy, during this session, they wound up writing 60 songs and discarding 52 of them because they just weren't good enough. And they wound up re-recording lots of chunks of songs because they were just playing them so much in the studio that they were progressing beyond the like initial track. So they just felt like they needed to go retrack a bunch of stuff. Anyway, yeah, production took over a year. It started in the beginning of 2004, and they thought the album was going to be out at the end of 2004. But they wound up pushing the release to January of 2005, and then pushing it again to June of 2005, which is when it actually came out. So yeah, they just dove really heavy into like production and making everything like perfect. They also really started bridging the gap between like incorporating electronic elements with like rock music. And a lot of people call this like a space rock album, which to be honest, I don't really know what that even is, but it is like a pretty atmospheric album that is juxtaposed with just like some more serious rock and like alt rock. I love the way it's produced. I love the way it's balanced. There's a lot of like really key songs on it. I didn't like make a key tracks list or anything. I'm not going to go through the track list, but anyone that's interested, I feel like the best experience is just start to finish. A lot of people know the song Fix You, which came off this album. And actually, I didn't know this until I was like reading about this album, but it was actually the most sold album unit wise of 2005, which is kind of crazy because a lot came out that year.
Coldplay?
Yeah, this album.
Coldplay?
Yeah, I forget. They didn't write down the number, but it was like over 6.9 million physical copies.
That's cool.
And yeah, they also were on the top 32 list of like worldwide bands. So it was a big album, which I thought was interesting because it seemed like it was kind of forgotten after it came out, especially after like Viva La Vida came out, and that was like the shit. But yeah, I feel like X and Y really was the album that first got me interested in like how things are produced and like what sounds I'm actually hearing. So yeah, I threw that on my list of like my number one because it just felt like it's the album that I still like reference and think back on the most when I'm thinking about like just music that's important to me overall. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got for that.
That's awesome, man. I love that you did a Coldplay album. And what album, what number was that for them in their discography? How many albums did they release before that?
So this was album number 3.
Okay.
They had Parachutes as number 1 and then Rush of Blood to the Head as number 2. And I was gonna do Rush of Blood to the Head, honestly, but this album just went further sonically, and I feel like maybe made a larger footprint on my personal desire to like make like a rock-based music that's still exploratory into other things.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Great review. I'm glad you did Coldplay because it feels like we wouldn't have a proper review of albums coming out in the 2000s if Coldplay wasn't on that list somewhere.
Yeah, they definitely at least would have been on my honorable mentions because on every album they released, on their first 3 albums, there was at least 1 or 2 songs that were like major like radio play songs. And I mean, yeah, just their unit sales were super impressive, especially for like a newer band. And I did want to like kind of reevaluate how I was giving Waxy's because I feel like I was giving everything the exact same score. So my Waxy rating is going to be a little bit more just like how I think the album is like universally, kind of like how Cam did his just now. So I would put it at like a 7 overall for like musical quality. But for me personally, it's definitely closer to like an 8 or an 8.5 Waxy's. And yeah, I will popcorn to my boy Collin, I suppose.
Okay. So, like everyone, I was overwhelmed at first when we had this because, like I said, like I don't think there will be a period in our lives again where like we take in music the way we did in the 2000s. Like I think like when you're like not 8 to 10 or 11, like that's kind of like when pop culture is like maybe it's most fascinating to you, and therefore like music coming around at that time hits different than it ever will again. Right. So yeah, I was struggling with this, and then I kind of like reevaluated, and I said I should pick something like that I actually listened to as an album at that time, because then like you guys have said, like it's mostly like consuming singles or like music videos that come on MTV, and there were still a lot of albums I was listening to like in the forms of CDs that I had in my room. So anyways, I limited it to that. So I have 3 honorable mentions. First, Vampire Weekend, their debut album, which is self-titled. Second, Out of Exile by Audioslave. Third, The Killer's Hot Fuss. But what I chose as my number one, like, sort of early album that was important to me was Demon Days by the Gorillaz. And I picked that because it was definitely what I was most obsessed with at the time. It came out in 2005, so I would have turned 9 that year. I guess I was 8 when the album came out. But my first introduction was the music video for Feel Good Inc. on MTV. I remember I'd watch MTV every morning before school, and I'd get up early to make sure I saw the Feel Good Inc. music video. And I never heard a song like that. Like, I think it was maybe the first song where, like, I heard where there was a rap feature on it, and I thought it was so cool, and I loved the chorus, and it was just like mesmerizing. And I remember for my birthday that year, I got Demon Days. My parents knew I was like obsessed with Feel Good Inc., so they bought me the CD for Demon Days, and it was like all I listened to for a year, and still an album I listen to all the time. And so anyways, this is so first, the Gorillaz, we probably all know them, but in case you don't, the Gorillaz are cool because they're kind of they're groundbreaking in the way that they were never a real band. They're a virtual band that's behind the partnership between Damon Albarn, who was the frontman for Blur, who's like a Britpop band who were incredibly successful in the 90s. And I think Damon was burnt out from Blur and looking for something else. So he partnered with this guy, Jamie Hewlett, who's an animator, or Hewitt, I think. I should know this. How's his last name pronounced? 1 second. Anyways, Hewitt or Hewlett. Sorry, guys. So this is embarrassing. Anyways, whatever. Doesn't fucking matter, I guess. But so they were like a virtual band. So all the music videos, they created these characters. And there's still like an ever-evolving universe of Gorillaz characters. But there's 4 animated characters who they always portrayed as like writing and coming up with the songs. And they were very innovative in that it was like largely like kind of a rock band, but they brought in a lot of great hip hop artists to do features on songs and everything. So they released their first album in, I forget the exact year, 2003 maybe. And Demon Days is their second album, and it came out in 2005. And it was hugely successful. They had a lot of big singles from the album. Feel Good Inc. was the first single. Dare was the second single. And Dare is actually the only song where I was surprised of all the singles to become to go to number 1 on the UK charts. Everything else hovered around there, but never reached number 1. Only Dare. Dirty Harry was the third single, and then the last single was Kids with Guns / El Mañana. So this album was also cool for me because it was like the first introduction to kind of it being like a concept album. They got the famous actor Dennis Hopper, who's in like Apocalypse Now and stuff, famous actor, to kind of narrate different songs throughout it, and it creates this whole universe, and all the songs are kind of set in that universe. So it's kind of a concept album in that way. But anyways, in the interest of time, I'll wrap this one quick and just say that Demon Days was hugely important for me and amazing album. And most likely everyone listening is familiar with it. But even if you are, go back and have another listen because it's a wonderful album. And I didn't think too much about Waxy's on this one. I guess objectively, again, I'll give it 8. Yeah, I'm also bad at I don't have a review yet under like 8 Waxys, but I'll give it 8 Waxys. Fuck it.
Yeah, we're
anyways,
always gonna get 8 Waxys.
Yeah,
all of us are
8.4. Anyways, and Keaton, I'll popcorn to you, brother.
Squeeze. I liked your review, especially regarding like Demon Days, because I was also going to mention that, and Julian's mentioning of Coldplay, and specifically to hit on Demon Days. That that was like when I was younger, because I didn't grow up in a like sheltered household, but it was definitely I didn't get introduced to much hip hop at all because because we lived in Fort Collins. So yeah,
I remember us definitely watching like Gorillaz music videos together, Keith, when we were kids.
and we thought they were so cool. And yeah, right. So I definitely tapped on that, but I would say, and then Coldplay for sure, because like Julian said, they kept improving every album. They're still like doing shit. Their musicality and production was like crazy. Their songwriting was really so that. But then I was also going to mention, since I forced you guys to push this up to 2010, Inner Speaker by Tame Impala came out in 2010. I'd say like that
really?
Wow. Yeah, and that would be like a huge and that combination of Kevin Parker and Pond, those two bands or like those two entities meshed really well together on that album. And it, I'd say, the whole album rocks. It's like 11 songs, so I won't name all the songs, but I mean, like 6 and 7, Solitude is Bliss, and then Jeremy's Storm is like a great back-to-back lose your mind type of song. So and then Tame Impala, great band, super influential in my musical upbringing for sure. But and then this is kind of out of left field, but that individual, I guess, MIA.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah. I was thinking, because that I think that came out in like 2008, and I first saw it in movies like Pineapple Express, in like Slumdog Millionaire. I'm pretty sure is where I like it's highlighted the most. But
Paper Planes. That song. Yeah, I think that
sounds like my guilty pleasure, dude. I love that song.
It's a good song. It was one of the first songs that introduced me to like not just Western type sounds. And I think that's where I started like, there's stuff that's like outside of this like generic scale. So anyways, just I'll keep it short because I know Julian's got you got work, but that's
good.
just
I actually got called off an hour, so take your time.
Oh, really? All right, cool.
Good shit,
Just got this news. Woohoo!
Oh, we could talk about ICP more.
Yeah, right back to ICP.
Yeah, but
I will say though, sorry to interrupt, but just as a fun aside, you like showed me the album Inner Speaker pretty much, whether you like really know that or not, because I totally missed Tame Impala as a kid. But like when I started jamming with you guys as like sophomores, you were like still listening to all that shit. And that was the first time I really heard it and understood it. So yeah, shout out to you.
We were juiced. And I think Nathan was the most juiced on it. And he, I remember specifically, we went on a hike and he played the entire album on the hike. And it was very fascinating to like, hear it in nature. Once it was one of those, it was a weird album to listen to because it's very conceptual, and so it's cool to mention a conceptual album on this podcast as well. Yeah,
right on.
But has anybody else? I think we've all gone, correct?
Yeah, that's everyone.
Yeah. So out of like, I guess my rating system is so fucked up with the Waxys too. I have no idea. I'd say just overall how good the album is, because they made other better albums. I'd say 7 out of 10
for Tame Impala.
Yeah, for the Waxys, and also because 7.
Yeah, I didn't get into Tame Impala until Lonerism. And then I went back on Inner Speaker. But great albums. Good review, Keith. I like MIA too, because that like Paper Planes, like I said, I picked like ones that were like important albums to me, but like in the influx of like songs that came in that I was obsessed with, Paper Planes would definitely be in there.
And also, everyone after that song came out was trying to like emulate that exact production style, and they still are. So yeah, you're definitely right in the sense that it was like an introduction of a whole new like style overall.
Okay, well, I mean, even though Julian has some extra time, we can wrap it up early because I think we're at a good timestamp. Joe, again, thanks so much, dude, for coming on. We really appreciate it. Will you come on again? We'd love to have you as a regular.
Anytime.
All
That's
right.
great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe, I miss you, man.
Miss you. Yeah, it was great to see you all.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
too.
That was great to see you too.
Likewise.
Any plans to come to Colorado anytime soon?
I don't have any plans because I'm too busy to plan things out.
Yeah.
But I definitely need to get out there. So I hope that.
Or maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle of the summer or something.
Yeah.
How's the snow? It's dumping supposedly, right?
Yeah, well, it's not snowing right now, but we got hit with a pretty good storm this past week.
I heard like 2 feet.
Yeah. Yeah, about that.
Holy
So
shit.
we're
That's
chilling.
insane.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere too soon.
That's nuts. We've gotten a bit of snow here. It's like picked up in the last couple of weeks. Like we got a good amount this past week, and it'll snow again Tuesday, but it's been pretty sparse compared to other winters. But the skiing's been all right.
Yeah, dude, good season so far. It turned around very quickly, which I'm so happy about.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, I love all of you. Thanks for another great episode of Waxy Wednesdays. Thanks to all of our listeners. We'll see you next week. Peace and love.
Right. Bye, Wax Romantics. Bye, Joe. See you soon.
Peace. Bye, guys.
Bye.
But scream.
Puff, puff.
Waxy Wednesdays with Wax Romantics.